Hello and welcome to my talk. Today we are going to learn how to create full stack web application using Blazor WebAssembly. My name is Ankit. I am currently working as HDE3 at Cisco Systems India. I am an author and a speaker. I have been recognized as GDE for Angular and I am also a Microsoft MVP. I write blog at my personal blog ankitsharmablogs.com. I write on .NET technologies such as Blazor and also UI frameworks such as Angular. You can also connect with me via Twitter at ankitsharma_007. So let us understand what is Blazor. Blazor is a framework for building interactive client-side web UI using .NET. It allows us to share server-side and client-side app logic written in .NET. We can also render the UI as HTML and CSS for wide browser support, including mobile browsers. It can be easily integrated with modern hosting platforms such as Docker. Let us understand what is WebAssembly. WebAssembly is a low-level assembly-like language with a compact binary format that can run in any modern web browser. We can compile the code from other languages to WebAssembly, which will facilitate their execution on the browser. WebAssembly is a subset of JavaScript and it is designed to complement and run alongside JavaScript. Please note that WebAssembly is not going to replace JavaScript and it is not an alternative of JavaScript. WebAssembly is a subset of JavaScript. WebAssembly is developed as a web standard and it is supported by all the major browsers without using any extra plugin. Let us understand few features of the Blazor. Blazor allows us to write code in C# instead of JavaScript. We can leverage the existing .NET ecosystem of .NET libraries. We can share app logic across server and client. We are going to use this feature in the demo we are going to use today. We can also take benefit from .NET's performance, reliability and security. We can stay productive with the help of Visual Studio on Windows, Linux and macOS. Visual Studio is one of the best IDE available and it has a lot of features. We can take full advantage of Visual Studio when we are creating a Blazor application. Blazor is built on a common set of languages, framework and tools that are stable, feature-rich and easy to use. And most importantly, Blazor is open source. So you can easily go to GitHub and see the code over there and it is supported by a great community. Let us understand the Blazor hosting model. The component model of Blazor is responsible for calculating UI changes, but we can use different renderers to control how the UI is displayed and updated. These renderers are known as hosting models. Blazor allows us two hosting models. One is called Blazor WebAssembly and another one is called Blazor Server. Let us understand the Blazor WebAssembly hosting model. Blazor WebAssembly apps run client-side in the browser on a WebAssembly-based .NET runtime. The Blazor app, its dependencies and the .NET runtime are downloaded to the browser. The app is executed directly on the browser UI thread. UI updates and event handling occurs within the same process. The app's assets are deployed as a static file to a web server or service capable of serving static content to clients. When the Blazor WebAssembly app is created for deployment without a backend ASP.NET Core app to serve its file, the app is called as a standalone Blazor WebAssembly app. However, when the app is created for deployment with a backend app to serve its file, the app is known as hosted Blazor WebAssembly app. For our demo today, we will be using hosted Blazor WebAssembly app. Let us understand the architecture of Blazor Server. With the Blazor Server hosting model, the app is executed on the server from within an ASP.NET Core app. UI updates, event handling and JavaScript calls are handled over a SignalR connection. The state of the server associated with each connected client is called a circuit. A circuit can tolerate temporary network interruption and attempts by the client to reconnect to the server when the connection is lost. Before we start with our demo, let us understand what are the prerequisites for Blazor development. We need to install Visual Studio 2022 with the ASP.NET and web development workload installed. And since we are creating a full stack web application, we are using SQL Server as our preferred database. So you need to install SQL Server and SQL Server Management Studio as well. In our application, we are going to use two external packages. Since we are using Entity Framework tools to create a model from existing database, we will install the tools package called Microsoft.entityframework-core.tools. This will allow us to scaffold our model using DB first approach. We will install the package for database provider that we are targeting, which is SQL Server in this case. Hence, we are going to use Microsoft.entityframework-core.sql server package as well. Now we are going to start with the demo. So first of all, we are going to configure our database. So here I have already created a database called EmployeeDB. And in this database, I am going to add two tables. One is called employee, which has fields such as employee ID, which is identity and the primary key. Then the name, city, department, and gender. Then I will be adding a table called city, which will have city ID, which is an identity field, and it is a primary key, and city name. And I am going to add 5 values in the city table. When we are working with the UI, we are going to get the value from city table and populate a drop down list on the UI, and user can select the value of city from this existing data. So let us run the commands. Okay, so the code has been executed successfully. Let us run the code to see the output once. So you can see that the employee table is empty now, and the city table has 5 cities added to it, the city ID and city name. So this is all about our database. Now we will move to our Visual Studio. So this is our Visual Studio. I have already created an application. Let me walk you through the solution architecture. So the application name is Blazor CRUD app. And since this is ASP.NET Core hosted application, the Blazor application name is Blazor CRUD app, and since it is ASP.NET Core hosted application, it has 3 projects under it. One is called client, another one is called server, and last one is called shared. So the things which we want to share between client and the server project, we will put that inside the shared project. So inside this server project, we can see there is a app settings.json file. Inside the app settings.json file, we are going to configure our connection string. So here you can see I have already added a connection string, and I have initialized my DB name, the user ID, and the password. Now we are going to scaffold our application. So let's get the scaffolding command. So this is the scaffolding command. We'll click on tools. We'll click on NuGet Package Manager. Then we'll click on Package Manager console. We are going to run the command inside our Package Manager console. So we'll paste the command. Let us understand the command first. It is saying scaffold DB context, name, and we are providing the path of connection string, that is connection string : default connection, how we have defined here in our app setting.json file. Then we are going to put the name of our package. Then we are specifying the output directory, which is called models. And then we are specifying the name of tables which we want to scaffold. So we want to scaffold employee and city table. So the application is running, the build is started and build is succeeded. Now you can see once the build is complete, you can see there is a models folder added in our server application. You can see in the server project, a models folder has been added. In this models folder, we have 3 files. One is called city.cs for city table, then employee.cs for employee table, and then employee DB context will be our DB context. Now we are going to use the city and employee model in our client application also. Therefore, we have to move this to shared file so that it can be used in both server and client projects. So inside the shared project, we are going to create a new folder and we will name it as models. We have created a folder called models. We are going to move city and employee classes to our models folder. So we'll simply drag and drop it over here, and we will delete it from our server project. Now inside the employee.cs file, so on the UI, how our structure will be that we will be having a form. The form will allow the user to enter the data, and we have to implement the client side validations on the form. And since we are going to bind the form to our class employee, hence we have to put our data annotation inside this file as well. So here we are going to add the required attribute. The required attribute comes from our data annotation, so we have to import that. So we have imported the system.component model.data annotations package, and we have to make the name, the city, the department, and the gender field as required. So we have marked it as required. So we are going to close this. We'll save the project, and then we'll close our DB context and app settings JSON as well, because these are not required now. So this is done. Now here I have already added an interface called iEmployee.cs. So we are going to use repository model pattern over here. So for repository model, we have to add the interface. So we are going to add the interface first of all. So here I have added all the methods which we are going to use for our data access from the backend. Now I have also added a class called employee data access layer.cs class. Inside this class, we are going to implement our interface, and we are going to use this class to fetch all the data from our database. So this employee data access layer class is basically going to do all our data handling and all our communication from the database. So let me add the code over here. So first of all, we have implemented the constructor, and let me import all the required files. So we have created a DB context, and then inside the constructor, we are injecting it over here. Now we'll add the get all employee method. So the get all employee method will fetch the list of employees from our DB context, and it will return the list of employee from this method. Then we'll add the add method. The add employee method will accept a employee as a parameter, and it will add it to our employees table, and then it will save the changes. Similarly, we will add the update method. The update method will accept the employee as a parameter. It will update the state of the object, and then it will save the changes. So it will update the data of the employee. Then we will have get by ID method. So get by ID will accept an integer parameter, which will be the employee ID. It will fetch the data from database based on that employee ID, and it will return the employee from this method. Then we have the delete method. So as the name suggests, it will accept the employee ID as parameter. It will find the employee with that particular ID, and then if the employee exists, it will remove from our table, and it will save the changes. Finally, we are going to add the get city method. So get city method will return the list of cities from our cities table. So that is how we have configured our employee data access layer. Now we have added a controller, which is an API controller. Now we are going to configure the controller. So controller will expose our API to the our UI application, our client application. So client will call our API endpoints, and the API endpoints will call our employee data access layer methods to do all the data manipulation. So first of all, we will configure the constructor. In the constructor, we have injected the iEmployee service since we are using repository pattern. Then we have the HTTP get method over here. So the HTTP get method will call the get all employee method from the data access layer, and it will return the list of all the employees from over there. Similarly, we will add all other methods. So here is the list of method we have. So let me explain it one by one. So here we have added the get by ID method. It will accept the ID as a parameter. It will call get employee data method from our employee service, and it will return an employee. Similarly, we have a post method. The post method will accept employee parameter. It will call the add employee function. It will call the add employee method to add the employee data to our database. Similarly, we have put, delete, and the method for city list to fetch the city list data. So the root will be defined as get city list, and it will return a list of city from this method by calling the get city method from our employee service. So that is how our controller has been defined, and this controller will expose the API endpoints to our external world. So here you can see that the inner detail or the inner implementation detail is hidden inside our data access layer, and only the outer world can see our controllers, and that is how the communication is happening. Now the final step is to configure our program.cs file. So in the program.cs file, we are going to first add the service for our employee DB context, so that when our application is launched, we have to inject the employee DB context, and similarly we are going to define the service dependency for our iEmployee service. Just a point to mention over here, if you are familiar with .NET architecture, until .NET 5 we are going to add this kind of code in the startup.cs file, but as you can see that there is no startup.cs file in .NET 6. So this is a recent change which is introduced in .NET 6, that we are going to follow a minimal model, where whenever you are creating a new application, you don't need to add a startup.cs file. You can do the same configuration in the program.cs file. However, if you have a old application, let's say from .NET 5 or .NET 3, and you want to upgrade to .NET 6, in that case you can use a startup.cs file. The old architecture is still valid and supported. This new architecture is just a minimal model which allows us to write code in a better and a clean manner. So that is what we are going to use, since we are creating an application from scratch. So we are going to use the minimal model, and hence we have defined all our service dependency in the program.cs file. So with this, the configuration for Blazor server the configuration for the server project and the share project is done. Now we will move to the client project. Inside the client project, I have already added two components. One is called employee data.razor. Another one is called add edit employee.razor. So in the employee data.razor, we are going to fetch the list of employee from the backend, and we are going to display it in a tabular manner. And for the add edit employee.razor component, as the name suggests, it will allow us to add and edit an existing employee data. So here I am going to follow the code behind model. Therefore, you can see that we have added a component file and a code behind class file to it. Now let me uncomment this code first. So here you can see that we have added variables called employee list to hold the employee data. Then we have also added a variable for search employee data. So why we have two variables? Let us understand this. We are going to provide the we are going to provide the ability to do a client-side search, which means we have a table, and in the table we are going to do a search. And since we are doing a search, we don't want to lose the original data. Hence, we are storing the original data in the search employee data over there. That's why we have two variables. So here we have added the onInitialize async method. It will call the getEmployee method. Inside the getEmployee method, we are going to do a HTTP call to our backend, and we are going to fetch the list of all the employees from our backend API. So you can see that API/employee is the name of our endpoint. So if you go to the employee controller, you can see the endpoint name is API/controller, and the controller name is employee. Hence the path for the get is API/employee. So we have added a filter employee method. The filter employee method is used to filter the data based on the search string. So we are going to bind a search string to the input field, and based on the search string value, if the search string is not null or empty, we are going to search through the search employee data variable, and we'll see if the value exists or not. And if the value exists, we are going to update the employee list, which will bind to the table. Else we'll reset the value over here. And that is where the use of search employee data variable comes. It will always hold the complete list of employee, and the variable employee list will keep on updating as per the search term entered by the user. Here we have added two methods. One is called delete confirm. So when this method is invoked, it will ask if you really want to delete the employee or not, and it will also give you the employee data. based on that. And another one is delete confirm. So another one is called delete employee. So once you confirm that you want to delete the employee, we are going to do a delete call, HTTP delete call to the backend, and we are going to send the employee ID corresponding to the employee you want to delete. And then once the delete is successful, we are going to call get employee method to fetch the updated list of employee. Finally, we have added a reset search method. So the reset search method is going to reset the search field. Once the search field is empty, it is going to update the employee list value and with the original list of employee data, and the table will refresh. Now we will move to the template part. In the template at the top, we have defined the root of the page as fetch employee, and we are also inheriting from our base class. And we have also put a static text to show that this is a component to demonstrate CRUD operation on employee data. Here we have added the add employee button. The add employee button will navigate to employee/add root. This root will redirect us to the add edit employee component, which we have not yet defined, but we are going to define in a minute. So this add employee button will redirect us to the add employee form. And similarly, we have also added a search box over here. Inside the search box, you can see that we are binding the value to the search string, and bind will be done on the input, which means as you type, the search will happen. And on key up, we are calling the filter employee method. Now, if the search string length is greater than 0, then at that point of time, we are going to show a cross button using font or some icons. And when we click on that cross button, the reset search method will be called, which will reset our search. Here we have added a table to show the list of employees. So if the employee list is null, it will show loading, else it will show a table. We are using Bootstrap for styling the table using table stripped and table bordered. And inside the body, we are iterating over the employee list object, and we are showing all the fields. So employee ID, name, gender, department, and city will be displayed. Along with that, for every row, we are providing edit and delete button. On click of edit, it will be redirected to this path, employee/edit/employee ID, which means that this will redirect us to our add edit employee component. And in the add edit employee component, we are going to configure this root as well. And this is the button. Once you click on edit button, you will be redirected to add edit employee component. Similarly, we have a delete button. In the delete button, on click, it will call delete confirm method. And in the delete confirm method, it will ask you, do you really want to delete this employee? And also we are going to toggle a model based on our delete button functionality. And the model is called delete employee model, which we have defined here at the bottom. So this is the Bootstrap model. Inside this model, we are going to show the data of the employee which you are going to delete. So will ask, do you really want to delete the employee? And after that, in the table, we are going to show the details of the employee which you are trying to delete. And at the end, we have two buttons. One is yes and another one is no, as the name suggests. If you click on the yes button, the model will be closed and it will call the delete employee function to delete the employee. And if you click on the no, there will be no call made and the data will be, the model will be closed. Now we will move to the add edit employee component. Let me uncomment these two lines first. So you can see that whenever we are referring to this employee and city models, we are using the our shared project. Inside the shared project, you can see the namespace is defined as Blazor CRUD app server.models, and we are using the same namespace over here to refer. So that is how we can share data between server and client project, which is defined inside the shared project. So this particular component is used for two functionality, add and editing an employee. We are going to show a form to our user, and when you are going to add a new employee, the form will be empty. You will add the values and click on save. The data will be saved. When you are going to edit an employee, the form will be pre-populated with the employee data which you want to change. You can update the data, click on save, and the form will be the employee data will be updated. So here we have defined onInitialize async method. Inside that we are going to call the getCityList method. The getCityList method will do an HTTP call and fetch the list of cities. Why we are doing this? The reason for that is inside the form we have a drop down, and the drop down will show you the list of all the cities which we have defined in our database. And as the component initialize, we want to show the list of cities in the drop down. Hence we are fetching the list of cities in the onInitialize method. Then we have used another lifecycle hook called parameter onParameter set async, where we are going to fetch the list of where we are going to fetch the data of employee based on the employee ID. So if the URL parameter contains an employee ID, then we are going to pass that employee ID to our backend, and we will make an HTTP call to fetch the employee data. You can see that for this particular component, we have also defined a parameter which is called employee ID. So this particular component accepts employee ID, which is an integer, as a parameter, and based on the value, if employee ID is not null, which means this is an edit call. So if it is an edit call, we will set the title of the page as edit, and we are going to make an HTTP call to our backend and fetch the employee data based on the employee ID. Then we have the save employee method. Inside the save employee method, we will check if the employee ID is not null, which means this is an edit call. So we are going to make a put call to our backend. Else we are going to make a post call to our backend, and we are going to pass the employee data. And then we are going to call the cancel method. Cancel method will navigate us back to the fetch employee component, which is the place where we are displaying all the all the employee data in a tabular manner. So this is all about the base class. Let us move to the template file. Inside the template file, here you can see at the top we have defined two root for this page. One is called employee/add, and another one is called employee/edit, and it is also accepting a URL parameter called employee ID, which is of type int. So if either of these two URL is hit, this particular component will be called. And from our employee data.razor file, you can see that when we are calling the add employee method, here you can see that on this anchor we are calling employee/add root, and on the edit button, you can see that we are calling employee/edit/employee ID root. So that is how we are calling these two roots from our employee component. So here we have added the form. So let us understand how the form is configured. So to configure a form in a Blazor application, we have to use the edit form component, and we have to bind the model property with the model which we want to bind. So in our case, the model name is EMP, which we have defined over here, which we have defined a new object of type employee. And then on valid submit, we are going to call the save employee method. And we have also added data annotations validator component over here. Data annotation validator component will check for the validation in our model. So if you remember, in the employee.cs class, we have added few data annotation validation, which is a required field over here. So this particular line number 9, the data annotation validator component will implement or enforce that required for all our fields. Now we have used Bootstrap for the designing. Here you can see that we have defined the label for name, and we have used the input text component from Blazor to bind the value to employee name. So Blazor allows us, or I will say Blazor provides us with some inbuilt component for forms. One is called input text for input. Similarly, we have input select, and this will allow us to invoke all our Blazor validation. So this is different from the standard HTML tag of input and select. It is configured especially for the Blazor applications, and it will allow us to capture all the data annotation changes, and the changes will be done in real time, and as you see the error will be displayed in the real time. So we are going to see that when we are going to run the application, so it will be easy for you to relate to it. Then at the end, we are going to show the validation message for this particular field. Similarly, we have defined a select for gender. We have two values, male and female. And similarly, we have defined the validation message for gender. Then we have a department, which will be a free form text, input text. And again, we are going to show the validation message for department. The interesting part is the city field. Inside the city field, we have a select, and we are iterating over the city list property. So if you remember, we have set the city list property in our in the get city list method. This get city list method is called onInitialize async method. Now, once this city list is populated, this particular for each will run, and it will set the value from our database. So that is how we are binding the value from our database to a drop-down list on our UI. And at the end, we have two buttons. One is save, which will be of type submit, which is important. If you do not put the type submit, the form will not be submitted. So once you click on the save button, the form will be submitted. And if it is valid submit, which means all the client side validations has passed, then this save employee method will be called. And another one button is cancel, which is of type button, and it will call the cancel function, and it will redirect us back to the employee page. So that is all about the code part. Now let us run the application and see it in action. The build has started. It will take a few minutes to build for the first time. The application is launched in the browser. We'll click on the fetch employee link in the left menu to navigate to our fetch employee component. So if you can see in the URL, the parameter is, the path is set as fetch employee. And here we can see a table. The table is currently empty because we have no data. And you can see there is an add employee button. If you click on the add employee button, you will be navigated to employee/add path, which will be calling our add edit employee component. Now here you can see a form. There is a city field. If you click on this drop down, you can see all the cities that we have added in our database will be displayed over here. If you click on the save button, you will see the required field errors will be displayed. Now we are going to add the value and save an employee. Once the save is successful, we will be navigated to the fetch employee page, and here you can see the data in a tabular manner. For the data, we are going to see an edit and delete button. So let me add one more employee. So let's say I add Rahul, gender, let's say female, department, let's say QA, and city, let's say Bangalore. Click on save. Now you can see that we have two employee records shown with the employee ID, name, gender, department, city, and we have actions button shown corresponding to each employee. Now, if I click on search, if I search for employee called Ankit, you can see it is showing the search result as I type, because the value is binded on type, and on key up we are calling the filter employee method. And we have a cross button shown over here. If we click on this, the field will be cleared out and we'll get the original set of data. Now we have edit, we'll see the edit functionality. If you click on the edit button, you will be navigated to the employee/edit/to link. To will be the employee ID. So it is again sending us back to the add edit employee component. However, since we have a parameter set, that's why we are making an API call to fetch the employee record based on this employee ID. Now let's say I make the changes to gender, make it to male, name will be updated to Rahul Kumar, and let's say we'll update city to, let's say, Chennai, and click on save. You can see the value will be updated over here as we have updated. Now let's see the delete functionality. If you click on the delete button, you will see a delete employee model, which is a bootstrap model, and it will ask, do you want to delete this employee? And you are seeing the data of the employee in a tabular manner. If you click on the yes button, the data will be deleted and we will see the updated list over here. Now if you look at the our database, if you run this command select star from employee, you can see the only one record will be displayed because we have only one record in our database. So our database and the UI is synced over here. So that is all about the demo of this application. Let me close this. So I want to share few resources with you guys. So the GitHub repository for this particular application is available at bit.ly/blazor-wasm-code. You can also read the blogs on Blazor and other .NET technology at my personal blog called ankitsharmablogs.com. You can also connect with me on Twitter at ankitsharma_007, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn at in/ankitsharma-007. I will be happy to connect with you guys, and if you have any questions or you want to do any kind of tech discussion, I am happy to connect. I hope you have enjoyed the talk. Thank you for watching.